The Los Angeles sun was already brutal at 8:30, slicing through the plantation shutters and turning the white kitchen into a bright box of temptation. I stood at the island in nothing but an old UCLA t-shirt that barely covered my thighs, flipping pancakes like some domestic goddess who definitely was not thinking about how long it had been since anyone touched me. Mark, my husband, Alex's dad, had left for Tokyo 3 days ago on another urgent business trip. The house felt too big, too quiet, and honestly too full of me, pretending I did not notice how my stepson had stopped looking away when I bent over to load the dishwasher. I heard bare feet on the hardwood before I saw him. Alex padded in wearing gray sweatpants that should be illegal, low, loose, and doing absolutely nothing to hide the fact that 22-year-old former water polo players wake up. Optimistic, his hair was a blonde mess, eyes still puffy from sleep, and when he yawned, the stretch pulled his abs into sharp lines that disappeared beneath the waistband like an invitation. I kept telling myself I was not allowed to read. "Morning, Lisa," he mumbled, voice rough in a way that made my stomach do a slow flip. He always called me Lisa now, never Mom, ever since he came home from college last year, taller, broader, and dangerously aware of it. "Pancakes," I offered, trying to sound like a normal human and not a woman who'd spent half the night imagining very unmaternal things. He grinned, lazy and lopsided, and leaned his hip against the counter right next to me. Too close, the kind of close that happens when someone wants you to notice they are not moving away. Only if you made the good kind. With the vanilla and he stopped talking because the spatula slipped from my hand and clattered onto the marble. I bent to pick it up at the exact same second he did. Our fingers brushed. Static shot up my arm like I would touched a live wire. We both froze there, crouched beside the island, faces inches apart. His eyes were the same ocean blue as his father's, but warmer, hungrier, and suddenly, I could not remember how breathing worked. "Sorry," I whispered, except I was not. Alex did not straighten up. He stayed low, one hand braced on the cabinet door, the other still touching the spatula handle right next to mine. "You dropped something," he said, voice softer than the morning light. My heart was ridiculous. 38 years old and pounding like I was 16 and sneaking kisses behind the bleachers. I should have stood up. Should have laughed it off. Instead, I heard myself say, "You are in the way, kid." He smiled at the word kid, like he knew exactly how untrue it was. Am I? He shifted just enough that his bare knee brushed my thigh. The contact was feather light. Accidental on purpose, and heat flooded me so fast, I had to grip the counter when I finally stood. Alex rose slowly, all 6'3" of him unfolding like he had all the time in the world. The sweatpants had slipped even lower. I stared at the sharp versus cut disappearing under gray cotton, wondered, not for the first time, when my husband's son had become this man who looked at me like he wanted to eat me alive and thank me after. I turned back to the stove because it was safer than looking at him. The pancakes were burning. Perfect metaphor for my life right now. I flipped them too hard. One landed half off the griddle. Alex laughed under his breath and reached past me to rescue it, his chest brushing my back, arms sliding along mine. He smelled like warm sleep and the chlorine that never quite leaves a swimmer's skin. "Careful, Lisa," he murmured against my ear. "You will set the whole kitchen on fire." I was already burning. Every nerve ending screamed for me to lean back into him, to find out how solid he really was, how much of that quiet confidence was real. Instead, I elbowed him lightly. "Move, brat. Some of us are trying to cook." He did not move. If anything, he settled in closer, hands braced on either side of the stove, caging me without touching. "Some of us," he said, "are trying to figure out why you keep pretending you do not want me here." The room went very still. The only sound was butter hissing in the pan and my pulse roaring in my ears. I could have denied it, could have laughed, swatted him with the spatula, reminded him I was married to his father. Instead, I turned off the burner with shaking fingers and faced him. His eyes flicked to my mouth and stayed there. "Tell me to leave the kitchen, Lisa." His voice dropped. "Say it like you mean it, and I will." I opened my mouth. Nothing came out except a soft, traitorous exhale that sounded a lot like, "Please." Alex's jaw flexed. He took one step closer until the thin cotton of my t-shirt met the hard plane of his chest. "That is what I thought," he whispered. Then the coffee maker beeped loud, shrill, the sound of reality trying to muscle its way back in. I jumped. Alex did not. He just watched me with that half smirk that made me want to slap him and kiss him in equal measure. I grabbed the carafe with both hands like it was a shield. "Coffee," I announced to no one, voice too high. "We need coffee." He let me escape to the other side of the island, but his gaze tracked every step. I poured 2 mugs, hands trembling just enough to slosh dark liquid onto the counter. When I reached for the paper towels, Alex was already there, tearing one off and dabbing at the spill. His fingers brushed mine again, deliberate this time, and he did not let go. "Careless this morning," he said softly. I looked up. Big mistake. From this close I could see the faint scar through his left eyebrow, the tiny freckle on his lower lip. I suddenly wanted to taste. He was waiting, patient and predatory, giving me every chance to pull away. I did not. The paper towel dropped from my hand. Alex's eyes darkened. He stepped forward until my back met the fridge, and the cold stainless steel made me gasp. His palms landed on either side of my head, caging me again, but this time there was no pretending it was accidental. "Lisa," he said, my name rough in his throat. "I am done pretending I do not think about you when I am in the pool house. Pretending I do not jerk off, imagining your mouth every single night. My dad's gone." The confession hit me like a slap and a caress at once. My knees threatened to give out. I should have been horrified. I was horrified. And so turned on, I could barely stand. "Alex," it came out a plea, not a warning. He leaned in until his lips brushed the shell of my ear. "Tell me, you do not think about me too. Lie to me. I dare you." I could not lie, not when every inch of me was screaming the truth. My hands found his waist, fingers curling into warm skin just above the waistband of those damn sweatpants. He sucked in a breath. And that was the exact moment the smoke alarm decided the forgotten pancakes had suffered enough. We sprang apart like teenagers caught necking. Alex grabbed a dish towel and started fanning the detector while I rescued the blackened remains of breakfast, laughing and cursing under my breath. The absurdity broke the spell just enough for sanity to creep back in. I dumped the charred pancakes in the trash and leaned against the counter, trying to catch my breath. Alex silenced the alarm, then turned to me. Hair wild, chest still heaving. For a second we just stared at each other across the kitchen, the air thick with everything we had not done yet. He broke first, grinning like a kid who'd gotten away with murder. "Guess we are ordering Uber Eats," he said. I laughed, shaky, disbelieving, alive. "Guess we are." But when he walked past me to grab his phone, his hand brushed the small of my back, a promise and a threat, all in one. Breakfast was ruined. Everything else was just getting started. The Uber Eats guy took 23 minutes to deliver breakfast burritos. 23 minutes of me pretending to wipe down already clean counters while Alex lounged on a bar stool, legs spread wide, scrolling on his phone like he was not radiating heat in my direction. Every time I glanced over, he was watching me over the screen, that lazy smirk firmly in place. I wanted to throw a dish towel at his head. I wanted to straddle him right there on the stool. The war inside my chest was exhausting. When the doorbell finally rang, I practically sprinted for it. The poor driver handed over the bag, took one look at my flushed face and Alex's shirtless torso behind me, and wisely decided not to ask for a tip. I slammed the door and leaned against it, clutching warm foil like a life raft. Alex raised an eyebrow. "You gonna stand there hugging breakfast all day? Or can we eat?" I marched past him, dropped the bag on the island, and started unpacking with unnecessary violence. "Sit," I ordered. He sat slowly, like a cat who knows the canary is already half dead. We ate in silence for about 30 seconds before he spoke. "So he said around a mouthful of egg and chorizo, When exactly did you decide burning breakfast was foreplay? I nearly choked on my coffee. I did not. You did. He licked hot sauce off his thumb in a way that should be illegal in 17 states. You have been eye-fucking me since I walked in. Do not bother denying it. I have receipts. He tapped his temple. Heat crawled up my neck. You are incredibly arrogant for someone who still leaves wet towels on the bathroom floor. Arrogant? He leaned forward, elbows on the marble. Lisa, I am observant. There is a difference. Example. Right now, your nipples are trying to wave hello through that shirt. Observation. I looked down. Traitorous body. The air conditioning was Arctic and my thin shirt was doing 0 favors. I crossed my arms. It is cold. Sure. Blame the thermostat. He pushed his stool back and stood. Tell you what. Let us test a theory. Before I could ask what theory, he was behind me, hands settling lightly on my hips. I froze, burrito halfway to my mouth. He did not pull me against him, just rested his palms there, thumbs tracing small circles through the cotton. Still cold, he murmured. My skin was on fire. I set the burrito down before I dropped it. Alex? Shh. Experiment in progress. His hands slid forward, slow enough that I could have stopped him 1,000 times. I did not. When his fingers reached the hem of my shirt, he paused. Say stop, and I stop, no questions. I said nothing. He took that as permission. The shirt lifted inch by inch, cool air hitting my stomach, then ribs, then God help me. He pulled it over my head and let it fall to the floor. I stood there in nothing but pale blue lace panties, goosebumps racing across my skin, heart trying to punch through my ribcage. Alex exhaled like a man who'd been holding his breath for years. Jesus, Lisa. I started to cover myself, old habit, but he caught my wrists gently and held them at my sides. Do not. Let me look. His gaze traveled over me like warm hands, lingering on my breasts, the curve of my waist, the tremor in my thighs. You are even better than the fantasies, and trust me, the fantasies were detailed. A nervous laugh escaped me. You are 22. Everything's better than your fantasies. He stepped closer until I could feel the heat rolling off him. Not everything. His hands released my wrists and settled on my waist again, thumbs brushing the underside of my breasts. Some things are exactly as filthy as I imagined. Some things are better. I was shaking now, fine tremors I could not control. He noticed, of course he did, and his expression softened for half a second. We can stop, he said quietly. Any time. I mean it. I believed him. That was the terrifying part. This was not some cocky college boy trying to score. This was Alex. Quiet, intense, stupidly perceptive Alex who'd watched me for months, maybe years, and decided I was worth the fallout. I reached for the drawstring on his sweatpants. One tug, and the bow unraveled. I do not want to stop, I whispered. The sound he made was half growl, half prayer. He kissed me then. No gentle first kiss nonsense. It was open-mouthed and hungry, teeth and tongue and years of pent-up want. I tasted coffee and hot sauce and pure reckless need. My back hit the island. Foil wrappers crinkled under my hips as he lifted me onto the cool marble. His hands were everywhere, cupping my breasts, thumbs circling, until I arched into him, sliding down to grip my thighs and spread them so he could step between. I wrapped my legs around his waist and felt exactly how hard he was through the thin cotton. He groaned into my mouth and ground against me. Slow, deliberate rolls of his hips that made me see stars. Been thinking about this counter for months, he rasped against my neck. You bent over it in those little yoga shorts. Me walking in pretending I needed water. Taking you right here while the coffee's still brewing. I laughed breathlessly. You have a very detailed imagination. I had to. You kept cock-blocking me with chores. He nipped my collarbone. Dishes. Laundry. Vacuuming in those tank tops. Cruel woman. I tugged at his sweatpants. Off. Now? He obliged, shoving them down and kicking them aside. No underwear, of course. He sprang free, thick and hard and flushed, and suddenly laughing felt very far away. I wrapped my fingers around him and he hissed, forehead dropping to mine. "Careful," he warned. "I am a lot more worked up than I look." "You look pretty worked up." He kissed me again, slower this time, like he was savoring it. Then he dropped to his knees. I squeaked, actually squeaked, as he hooked his fingers in my panties and dragged them down my legs. Before I could process being completely naked on my own kitchen island, his mouth was on me. No hesitation, no teasing licks, just hot, wet, perfect pressure that had my head falling back and my hands fisting in his hair. He knew exactly what he was doing, of course he did. Water polo players and their lung capacity there should be a warning label. I lasted maybe 90 seconds before my thighs started shaking. Against his ears. "Alex, wait, I am." He did not wait. He slid 2 fingers inside me and curled them, and I came hard, biting down on my own wrist to muffle the sound. He kept going through it, licking me gently, until I was boneless and gasping. When he stood, his mouth was wet, and his eyes were wild. He wiped his chin with the back of his hand and grinned like the devil. "Observation," he said hoarsely. "You taste better when you are trying not to scream my name." I hauled him up by the shoulders and kissed him, tasting myself on his tongue. My legs were still trembling, but I managed to wrap them around him again. "Condom," I panted. "Pantry. Top shelf behind the quinoa." He laughed against my lips. "Only you would hide condoms with the ancient grains. Mark thinks quinoa is foreplay. Move." He moved. 30 seconds later he was back, tearing the packet with his teeth while I watched, shameless and desperate. He rolled it on and stepped between my thighs again. "Look at me," he said. I did. His eyes were serious now, all the teasing gone. "Tell me you want this." Out loud. I cupped his face. "I want you, Alex. I want this, please." The please undid him. He pushed in slow, watching my face the whole time, giving me inch by inch until I was full and stretched and making sounds I did not recognize. When he was fully seated, he stilled, breathing hard against my neck. "Fuck," he whispered. "You feel fuck." Then he started to move. It was perfect and filthy, and a little bit funny because the island was the exact wrong height, and we kept sliding. He finally laughed, hooked his arms under my knees, and carried me to the breakfast nook, never pulling out. We collapsed onto the cushioned bench, me straddling him, and I took over riding him hard while he gripped my hips and watched me with something like awe. The second time I came, he followed right after, burying his face in my neck and groaning my name like it hurt. We stayed like that, sweaty and sticky and laughing breathlessly at the absurdity of it all. Somewhere in the distance, my phone buzzed, probably Mark checking in from Japan. I ignored it. Alex kissed my shoulder. "So," he said, voice muffled against my skin, "how do you feel about second breakfast?" I smacked his chest. "We just had first breakfast on the floor." Details. He grinned up at me, hair sticking to his forehead. "I am a growing boy." I rolled my eyes, but I was smiling so wide my cheeks hurt. Guilt hovered at the edges, waiting to pounce, but for now the kitchen smelled like sex and chorizo and possibility. And I was not ready to let reality ruin it. Not yet. We did not make it out of the kitchen for another 2 hours. After the breakfast nook, Alex carried me to the wide farmhouse sink. Yes, carried me like I weighed nothing and set me on the edge so the cold porcelain shocked my bare skin and made me yelp. He laughed, turned the tap to warm, and rinsed a soft dishcloth. Then he cleaned me, slowly, reverently, between my thighs, wiping away the evidence of what we would done while kissing every bruise his fingers had left. It was the most intimate thing anyone had ever done to me, and I had to bite my lip to keep from crying like an idiot. "You okay?" he asked, voice low, thumb brushing my cheek. I nodded, because words felt too big. He kissed my forehead, then my mouth, soft and sweet, like we had not just shattered every rule in the house, Eventually hunger, the non-carnal kind, won. We found the abandoned burritos cold and sad on the island. Alex reheated them without bothering to put clothes on. Strolling around my kitchen, completely naked and utterly unbothered, while I sat on a stool wrapped in his discarded UCLA hoodie that smelled like him and chlorine and terrible decisions. We ate, standing up, feeding each other bites, licking hot sauce off each other's fingers, giggling when salsa dripped onto my thigh and he chased it with his tongue. It felt like we were drunk on oxygen and bad choices. Somewhere between the third bite and the fourth kiss, the guilt finally arrived. Not a tidal wave, just a quiet knock. I set my burrito down. "Alex," I said. He heard the shift in my tone and went still. "Yeah. We can't tell anyone. Ever. Your dad." "I know." He wiped his hands on a napkin, expression suddenly older than 22. "I am not an idiot, Lisa. I know what this costs." The words hung between us, heavy and real. I traced the edge of the marble with one finger. "Do you regret it?" He did not even blink. Not for a second. Then, softer. "Do you?" I thought about it. Really thought about it. About Mark's indifferent kisses at airports, about the way he called me babe like it was a habit. Not a feeling. About years of sleeping diagonally across a king bed because someone was always gone. About waking up this morning lonely in a house with 2 other people in it. "No," I said, and it felt like exhaling after holding my breath for a decade. "I do not regret you." Relief broke across his face so brightly it hurt to look at. He rounded the island, cupped my face, and kissed me slowly, gently, like he was sealing something sacred. We ended up slow dancing naked to whatever Spotify decided to play next, some old Ryan Adams song that made everything feel even more like a movie we were not allowed to be in. His hands rested on the small of my back, my cheek against his chest, heartbeat to heartbeat. I could feel him getting hard again, and I smiled into his skin. "Already," I teased. "You are naked and breathing," he said. "I am not dead." I laughed, then sobered. "We have to be smart, Alex. Separate rooms. Locked doors. No. Lingering looks at dinner." He pulled back just far enough to meet my eyes. "I can do smart. I can do careful. But I am not doing done. Not unless you tell me you are done." I searched his face, this beautiful, reckless boy who'd somehow become the only person who saw me clearly. "I am not done," I whispered. The smile he gave me could have powered the whole goddamn city. We showered together in the downstairs guest bath because the master felt too much like trespassing. He washed my hair, fingers massaging my scalp until I nearly fell asleep standing up. I returned the favor, soaping the long lines of his back, tracing every ridge of muscle I would only ever admired from a safe distance. When he turned, water streaming down his chest, I sank to my knees without thinking. He tried to protest something noble about not expecting anything, but the sound he made when I took him in my mouth erased every polite word from the English language. After, he wrapped me in the fluffiest towel we own and carried me to the couch in the adjacent living room. We curled up under a throw blanket, legs tangled, trading lazy kisses while the afternoon sun slanted gold across the floor. I traced the freckles on his shoulder and asked the question I would been avoiding. "What happens when your dad comes home?" Alex was quiet long enough that I started to panic. Then he kissed my temple. "We figure it out. Together. I am not some kid who is going to throw a tantrum and blow everything up. I want you safe. I want you happy. If that means I only get you in stolen moments for now, I will take it." The maturity in his voice wrecked me. I pressed my face into his neck so he would not see the tears. "You deserve more than stolen moments." He tilted my chin up. "I deserve you. However, I can have you. The rest is details." I kissed him then, hard, until we were both breathing like we would run miles. The blanket fell away. He pulled me on top of him, hands sliding under the hoodie, his hoodie, to cup my ass. Again, I laughed against his mouth. "I am making up for lost time," he said, already guiding himself inside me. "Years of it. We moved slow this time, face to face, watching every flicker of pleasure cross each other's features. When I came, it rolled through me, gentle and endless, like tide instead of storm. He followed a moment later, whispering my name like a prayer against my lips. Afterward, we dozed in the quiet, his fingers drawing mindless patterns on my spine. My phone buzzed again. Mark this time, a text that just said landed safely. Love you. I stared at the screen until it went dark. Alex saw. He did not say anything dramatic, just tightened his arm around me and kissed the top of my head. The day slid into evening. We finally put clothes on barely, ordered pizza, because neither of us trusted the stove anymore, and ate it cross-legged on the kitchen floor. Backs against the cabinets, passing a single beer back and forth. We laughed about the smoke alarm, about the quinoa condom stash, about how the marble island was definitely going to need professional cleaning. At 10:47 p.m., we stood at the foot of the stairs. Separate bedrooms waited upstairs like judgmental parents. He brushed a strand of hair from my face. Good night, Lisa. I swallowed the lump in my throat. Good night, Alex. He started up the stairs, then turned back, 2 steps above me so we were eye level. For the record, he said quietly, best day of my entire life. Mine too, I thought, as I watched him disappear down the hallway. Mine too. I slept in the guest room that night, door locked, window cracked, his hoodie still on. At 2:13 a.m., my phone lit up with a text from the other end of the house. Alex, you awake? Me, obviously. Alex, open your door. I did. He was there in nothing but boxer briefs, hair tousled, looking nervous for the first time all day. He stepped inside, shut the door softly behind him, and crawled into bed with me like it was the most natural thing in the world. We did not have sex again. We just held each other, legs entwined, breathing synchronized, 2 people who detonated their entire world in one morning and somehow felt steadier for it. Just before I drifted off, he whispered against my hair, tomorrow, we figure out how to keep this. Okay? I pressed a kiss over his heart. Okay. The kitchen still smelled faintly of burnt pancakes and sex when I woke up at dawn. Alex was gone, bed made, no trace he would ever been there, except the indentation on the pillow and the faint scent of him on the sheets. Downstairs, fresh coffee was brewing. A new stack of pancakes sat warming in the oven. And on the island, right where I would been, sitting naked and shameless 12 hours earlier, was a single post-it note in his handwriting. Round 2 tonight. Wear the hoodie. Nothing else. I smiled so wide, the sun got jealous. We were going to burn the whole house down, one secret morning at a time. And I could not wait to strike the match.